Hi, I'm Mark Taylor, and it's time again for the Mark Taylor Show. This week's guest is my old buddy Sheldon Lee, back for another time, and welcome back to the show, Sheldon.
Nice to see you, Mark.
Yeah. Well, the last time after we did the show before, we talked about your life in politics and business and all that stuff. So, and you said that after you get done, you said that you'd like to do a show on the good old days.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. We both go back a few years. I mean, I've known you all my life, so we should be able to, surely between the two of us, dig up some old stuff and talk about.
I think so.
We could go back to the good old days. There's a simpler way of life back than Sheldon. If we go back, 50, 60, 70 years or whatever the case may be.
Yes. People, back those days, people pretty well made their own living. A store was necessary to buy sugar and flour and things like that. But every basement was, crocks were full of pickles, and jars were full of jam and all of that stuff, and preserves were put down. People done a lot of that then. And they had gardens, and they had to, because it wasn't, vegetables and things weren't available like they are now. But.
And you used to keep people, I know people still do it sometimes with their cottages, the camps, they keep ice.
Yes.
That used to be the thing. They used to get to the river and save the ice, or a lake.
They had ice houses where they cut the ice in the river, big blocks like this, pull it up with tongs, hauled it up and put it into the ice house. They had about 6 inches of sawdust they laid it on. Okay. And they kept it out from the wall about 6 or 8 inches. Right. And they lay a layer of ice, and they kept it apart 4 or 5 inches. Okay. Sawdust went all along the sides. Okay. And down between the cakes, and then another layer of sawdust went on, and then another layer of ice cakes.
And the sawdust would keep it cold, right?
Keep it from thawing. Yeah. They had ice all summer.
Wow. I mean, that's we're going back a few years, but but I know people still do it at their cottages and stuff. Yes, I've heard of that happening. That's where I saw it.
Yeah, I remember at my grandfather's house, they put up a lot of ice, and they hauled water from the brook, good drinking water, and they kept it in the house. They always had ice in the pail all summer long.
Jeez.
You just go to the ice house, kick the sawdust back, knock off a piece, wash it off, put it in the pail. Ice water.
Wow.
Hottest day in August.
Yeah. That's really something. I guess we were talking off the air too about, we go back a few years where now grabbing a cell phone, and you're never without a phone. Most people no matter where they go, they got to have a phone on them. But we remember we go back to days when you'd have to go to somebody's house to use the phone.
Absolutely. Not everybody in the country. People did not have a lot of money. Nope. And some people could afford a phone and others couldn't. Right. So if you needed to use the phone for sickness or anything, there was always somebody, a neighbor nearby, or maybe not quite so close, but you could always find a phone to call people or call a doctor.
It was a bit of a luxury. I mean, if it wasn't something that you could afford, you didn't bother with it.
No, you didn't. Well, most people couldn't afford it. You just could barely get by, big families and everything. But you could always go in case of sickness and use the phone wherever you could find one, and the doctors would come. Yeah. Call the doctor, he'd come to the house. They don't do that now.
No, God, no. So, and you remember a time, I guess, when radio was a big thing. Everybody just sometimes you go sit around and listen to music or whatever it was, or newscasts.
When they first came out, I understand, the radios in my time were pretty well there when I was growing up and everything. Yep. But I understand when they first came out, there was only one radio in the community. An elderly lady had it. She could afford to have it, and everybody wanted to listen to the radio, to hear people talking for 100 miles away. So she'd have people in. Yeah. And all of a sudden she was getting too big a crowd. Okay. And she says, I've got to put a stop to this. There's too many people here listening to the radio. It's too hard on the batteries.
Holy smokes!
The batteries run on the radio. Batteries.
Wow!
More people was listening. She figured it was.
And then it progressed to TVs. Well, I mean, certainly the black and white TV come out first, and people could sit around Saturday night and watch a hockey game or something. But
yeah, it wasn't. It was. I remember when that TV first came out. It was pretty poor stuff, to be told.
Oh yeah. One channel maybe.
Yeah, one channel,
and snowy at the best.
Yeah, it was snowy, unless you were lucky. It just happened to be in the right place, but. They soon improved. That improved very quickly, the TVs.
So you remember you getting your first TV? Is it?
Oh yes, right in my own house. It was not that long ago.
And then the color TV was a big thing too when that came out. I remember seeing my first color TV, and I mean that was not the greatest quality. Certainly nothing like we have today.
No, well, they've certainly improved it. Technology, like everything else, they improve it as time goes on. It wasn't all that good in the beginning.
And you know what I always find about them? They're awful pricey when they first come out. Like I'm sure your first TV, it set you back a ways to buy one until they mass produce them and can afford to sell them cheaper. But
you had to arrange to find the money. You know, not everybody could find the money for when they first come out, and they were quite popular. People would go to other people's houses and watch it. Not like they did the radio, but the radio was really something. People, when they radios first come out, I understand that if you had one, you were bound to have plenty of company.
Well, I remember even in my time, the first VCR I bought, I think it was $650.
Yeah.
And that was a VCR. I played the big VHS tapes. Well, $650 to buy quite a nice TV now.
Yes,
I mean, probably buy a 40, 50-inch TV, which is amazing, you know. So, I mean, it gives you an idea. And then it had a cord on it that had the remote. It wasn't even a wireless. It had to have a cord hooked up to it. So those things are things we've certainly seen over the time. And then, of course, we can get into the businesses. You ran a store in Bonnie River for years.
Yes, I had a store for 19 years. I ran the store there. Joan, my wife, mostly. I worked at other things. I was in the trucking business then, so I was trucking. And
but you took your turn once in a while. I've certainly seen you there in the evenings.
Oh, I was there in the evening, about every evening, to give her a break. You know, I'd be home and I'd work in the evening, and lots of days I would be there too. And I had it for 19 years, and it was fine. You didn't get rich at it, but you got your own living out of it.
And you could go and get your own groceries yourself and save a few bucks. I mean, it's and as we talked about it on the last show, it's kind of a vanishing thing. The country store, it's kind of gone by the wayside because the highways have all moved up, and you can go somewhere and get it cheaper, which is
yes, you can. That's true. And the larger places now, they have stuff that's cheaper. The country stores, you have to have a little bit extra because of the freight.
Oh yeah, and you can't buy as much. So you got to pay a higher price than what everybody. Like the big stores, like the superstores and stuff like that are paying. You know, I mean,
and I think that reached a point where they pretty well eliminated the country stores.
Well, I wanted to go back, if we could, to certainly within my years and my recollection, and I'm sure you got a couple years on me, so you can maybe remember some other things. But I was thinking if we could go into St. George. And we could go start at one end of the town and go through there. I remember my first recollection was the old Echo Shrimp Plant. It used to be right by where the RCMP station used to be. I mean, we're going back a few years. It's an apartment building now, but it was shrimp, which was amazing at the time. I think that
it was a shrimp plant that was built there to pack fish and everything. And the fellow that first started that, and I believe I'm correct on this, was a man by the name of Herb Seavey.
Okay.
And Herb. He packed fish there, shrimp and other things too. And after that, other people.
Well, a name that certainly is familiar in the area now is Peter Skoji.
Yes.
The Skoji, the family is now living in the area, his children and grandchildren and everything. He was also, I believe he might have been the manager, I'm not really sure, but he was also involved.
Yes, he was involved there. From time, there were different things that went on there. They packed shrimp, and I think they packed fish there for a while too. Some packaged fish. But
there was a coal storage that was right there. I think Connor's brothers bought the coal storage, and now it's the bottle redemption place. So it's so then when we go back, head in through town, there was a gas station. Huey Madison, I believe, ran it, right?
Yeah, the Esso one on the.
Right before you get to the Catholic Church.
Yeah, well, just beyond the Catholic Church.
Well, I guess we're heading in for going from east to west. It would be right before you get to the Catholic Church, but then Vic Linus ran it for a number of years, and it became a convenience store. Now it's deserted.
And before either one of those, Mark, there was a gentleman by the name of Will Hanson that ran that store.
Well, that's what I was wondering. I knew you would have other names. Because you go back, as I say, you got a couple of years on me.
That's as far back as I go. Will ran it, and I think Buddy Butler worked there some, but then he also worked, a fellow by the name of Buddy Butler worked downtown in O'Brien's clothing store.
Well, which we'll get to, but it was a time when gas stations and repair mechanics were all over the town, because we go down the street and there was a Texaco.
Yes.
Which I believe the names that I was thinking of was Bobby Morehouse and Wayne Lee and Billy Wright were the guys
that's about the three. Those were later years too.
Yeah, and now it's deserted and it's kind of just buried over. I don't think. I think the environmental problems. I don't think you could have anything there.
No, I think the ground was contaminated.
Yeah,
there
so they
with
had.
the gas.
It's basically where the health center is now, in that rough area, but across from the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Then of course there was which is moved now. It's closed down. Was the liquor store.
Yes.
And Ben Leland was the manager in there for a number of years. Pinky Craig was another guy that I remembered.
Yeah.
And
Pinky was there. He worked with
Clayton McVicker and those guys. And I think we talked about it. It wasn't self-serve.
No,
they had to pass it over to you.
Yeah, I remember them saying they were the 3 of the most popular guys in town.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and as I say, so you go back, and I mean, it just closed up now, and I think that's. A lot of the agency stores are opening up throughout the whole province, which I think it's
the pattern that their New Brunswick Liquor are taking.
Yep. So if we go to the next, where there's a restaurant there now, the Driftwood, and there was used to be a law office that was there.
Yeah, Carl Stewart.
Yeah.
Was there for years. He was a lawyer in St. George.
Yep.
And Caldwell Stewart was his name, and he lived there for. And he lived in Penfield.
Yeah, but he ran the business.
Office in St. George.
Well, a lot of people will know his son, Peter, who was the vice principal for a number of years at Fundy High and ECRS and stuff. So then across the street, and I find with Charlotte County, the people they're slow at changing the names. I still call that place the Fina.
Yeah,
everybody still calls it the Fina, and that hasn't been a Fina in, 30 years, Sheldon.
Well, it's been gone, really.
Oh, yeah.
But
I don't even know if there is. Well, then it became Petrofina, then it became Petrocan, which is. And Arnold Tucker ran the garage there.
Arnold Tucker ran that for years, and Billy Wright, I think, was there.
Well, Billy, I don't know. Billy was at the Texaco. I think Barry Harrigan may have ran it for a while.
Yes, Barry Harrigan was there.
Yeah, he ran it. It might have been passed around for a little bit. And another place that I mentioned to you, and you said, well, Normie Vance ran it, but then before it was called DeCarlo's, the auto supply.
Oh, yes, yeah. DeCarlo's and Sons, they ran that for years. They ran a great store. They had car parts for cars, tires, they sold tires, and then after they moved on, I think Normie probably bought the store from them. I don't know how that transaction came about, but Normie ran it. He ran a good store, too.
And his sons.
And his sons, and anything you wanted was there.
Oh yeah,
and if you didn't have it, he'd get it for you. He had access.
And that's what. It was back in the days when you could actually fix your own car.
Yes.
Not like now.
No.
If something happens now, you pretty well got to take it. It's almost like a doctor now. You got to take it somewhere and get it looked at, because there's no way the normal guy is going to be able to work on his cars.
Too much technology involved there.
Yeah. So if we go up the street, there was Marie's place. That was there for a number. Marie Thorne ran that in Clifton. And that was always interesting to go in and sit and listen to Clifton and his tales. I mean, it always had a story for everybody.
And Marie was just a tremendous cook.
Oh yeah,
she was a great cook, and her what she sold in the restaurant was like homemade.
Yep. Oh yeah.
And homemade dinners and everything.
You just couldn't get it,
just couldn't get it anywhere else.
And it's just up the street was Dave and Blanche Bro ran the diner as well.
They run a nice restaurant too.
Yeah,
always did.
Yeah, which is it kind of gives you an idea of how, I mean, people lived in the town, they shopped in the town. That's why these businesses could exist, because you couldn't do it now. It's hard to manage. There's maybe room for 1 or 2 people in a town, but it's slim pickings because people can go. There's so many choices.
Well, everybody has an automobile. There's 2 or 3 automobiles in everybody's yard now. They can go to St. John, St. Stephen, or St. George, or anywhere. They want to go. They can move around.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then of course I think there was the what we always call the revenue office, which is the place, Services New Brunswick, I guess we call it now, but that's where you go get your driver's license and all that stuff. Albert Henry, I believe, had a barbershop there.
Albert was a barber. He had a barbershop there for years, and a good one too.
Oh yeah. I've been to Albert, and we'll cover another guy down the road here a little ways. But there was 2 barbers that were in the town. And of course, then there was, what I remember, it was a lady, when I was going to school at the St. George Elementary, which is where the town hall is now, Emily Stewart.
Emily?
She ran what is called the Country Market now.
She ran the Country Market, yeah.
And then
but before Emily, there was a gentleman that started that store.
Oh, is that right?
Seymour McKay.
Okay.
Yeah, he lived over in the Yellow House just opposite the Irving station on the corner going to the Back Bay Road.
Okay.
Yeah, Seymour started that store years ago.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah. And then Emily took it over.
Yeah, I
after
didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, and then, of course, Mary Craig took it over and changed it to the country market, and it may have been some people in between, but then there was the St. George Pharmacy was just right beside there, which was Buster Wadlin, I believe, ran that.
Buster was there. He was the man you would talk to if you wanted something.
If you need a prescription or anything like that.
Plus even if it was closed, Buster would go open the store and get you a prescription if you needed it.
Yeah, and Sid Varner took it over, and Sid carried on pretty well much the same.
Pretty well the same way.
Yep.
Sid would do it too if you needed it, you know.
And then I guess there was the guy you just mentioned a little while ago, Buddy Butler, was O'Brien's
clothing store.
And
Jack O'Brien owned the store.
Is that okay? I didn't know who owned it.
He lived the first house as you turn up Riverview Avenue, the White House.
Okay.
Just as you turn up, the White House there.
Okay.
That was Jack's house.
So and Buddy was he a grandson or something, or what was he?
No, I don't think Buddy
just
was
he's in the employee.
I think, and I'm not 100% on this, but I think Buddy came to St. George driving the milk truck first, and then he went to work for, I may be wrong on that, seemingly he had done something else. But then he went to work for Jack in the store. He's a good man in the store, and Jack O'Brien was a tremendous man. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's to thrive in a small town. I mean, you got to be able to, and the competition. I mean, as we go on here, you'll notice that there's other clothing stores, there's other restaurants, there's all kinds, and that was good for business because you keep the prices down.
You wouldn't think of going into a clothing store today and asking them, look, I need a pair of pants or a pair of boots. My boots were, but I haven't got the money.
Yep.
Jack O'Brien would say, here, take them. Pay me when you get the money.
Right.
And I don't think you'd do that.
No,
now.
God, no.
But you know, Rubens was the same way. Louis Rubens and Nate, if you was hard up, people were hard up, they'd give you what you wanted to pay later. Okay. I don't think you can do that now.
No, I wouldn't think so. I guess Ralph and Donnie Southern ran that was a furniture store right there as well. I guess we kind of jumped ahead a little bit, but they had a store there for a number of years.
Yes, a good store.
Yeah, and you buy, as we mentioned, some of the things like TVs and stuff and furniture.
Oh, they had all kinds of furniture.
Yep.
They run a good business. They delivered and
it was and stood behind their products, which is what you've got to do. I mean, something didn't work. They'd have to, they'd look after you.
They'd look after you, yes, absolutely.
Another name that I thought of, and this is things, it was Vic Doucette, which would be the local MLA. Rick Doucette's dad ran the Stedman store. But what was the Five and Dime? Did they call it the Five and Dime?
Five and Dime store at that time. And,
then it became Stedman's?
It became Stedman's, I think. As far as I know, it was always Stedman's, but the Five and Dime went with it, so to speak, you know.
And it was, and they had everything in it. It had toys and clothes.
Yes,
And across the street was the Red and White, ran by Mervyn Hanselbecker, right?
Mervyn Hanselbecker.
He ran that for a number of years. I mean,
that's a great man, Mervyn was. Yeah, he died young.
Yeah, he did.
He was an awful nice fellow.
There's a youth center there now, but and then it became a restaurant and things like that. But that's back in the day, I guess, is where we're going. We're going back the 60s and 70s, or maybe before. That's Mervyn ran that.
Before Mervyn, though, Louis Acker ran that store as a grocery store.
I remember Louis. Louis used to come around buying the furs and stuff.
Yes, well, Louis ran the store for quite a few years, or he had people running it for him, and then Merv came along and purchased it.
Well, Louis' brother, Normie, he would have ran the Penny Saver, right, in St. Stephen?
Yeah, I think Normie was Louis' son.
Oh, was this his son? Okay, I wasn't sure. But it was the Penny Saver, and it had the talking crow, as a lot of viewers may, Sandy. He'd go in there and talk, and I think they had to get him quieted down there because I think he got a little X-rated at times.
Yes, he probably did,
Because people were, I mean, he's only going to repeat what he hears, and so people were going in there teaching him some bad stuff, I think.
Louis Acker are two good boys. Kenny Acker and Normie, they're both good fellas.
Okay, another thing which is strange, I don't know, a lot of people probably won't remember this, especially the younger people, is that where Groom Insurance is now, that used to be the Bank of Nova Scotia.
Yes, just on the Acker, though. And Louis had another boy. He was a doctor.
Okay.
Yes, I don't want to leave him out.
No, that's good. No.
Yeah.
But yeah, the bank. If you go into Groom Insurance, I see that the vault is still there, where they used to keep the money, and they didn't take it down. So they still kept the vault in there. Was for the Bank of Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
So
where
Groom Insurance is now.
Oh yes, they must have left it there.
And another thing that I thought of was where the Bank of Nova Scotia is now, that used to be John Fowler. Do you remember John?
I do remember John. He ran a grocery store and a good store,
Yep.
too.
Yeah,
Nice man.
and you know, it's funny how some of these names aren't around anymore in our community.
Well, John had no family.
Right.
And he was a nice man, and he lived in St. George a long time. He ran a nice store there.
Oh yeah, I remember as plain as day. I mean, going in there. I mean, and then back in the days, people would shop around they get some here, some there, and things like that. So it was kind of a thing that I remember. And of course, one thing I vividly remember is the theater. Well, the Rubens, Nate, and you said it was Louis. Was his dad?
His dad owned it as well, and then Nate took over. It's a normal thing to happen,
Yep.
you know.
Yeah, but it was the movie theater. I remember going there and seeing The Love Bug as one movie I remember back in the day. It's quite a thing to go and see a movie.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was nice. It was nice to go.
You know, you don't see that, of course, now. Movies are, and certainly drive-ins and things that are a thing of the past.
Yeah.
And Pete ran it. Pete was, I remember French fries and popcorn and stuff.
Ice cream.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now that's where Pete's Ice Cream is now. But then,
yeah.
You must have went to movies there, Sheldon?
Oh, all kinds of them.
Yeah.
That was a big thing. The train came into Bonnie River those days at noontime, and it came every day of the week.
Okay.
And it turned on the Y. There was a Y for turning the train halfway between.
Was that by my place?
No, it's halfway to St. George.
Oh, okay.
Just across. If you look across the river and see the Stevens' house, well, if you go the other way, you'd find the Y where the train came in.
Oh, I know where it is. Okay, it's in behind now. Yep.
And they backed into Bonnie River.
Oh, my.
And they always came around noontime.
Okay.
And you could jump on the train for 15 cents.
Wow.
And go to town, and you could catch the movie. They come in at noon. The train would be in St. George around 1, so you could go down and go to the afternoon movie. Sometimes they would charge you the 15 cents, and other times the car conductor would just walk by and say, well, I'm going to give you a free one today, boys.
Holy smokes, which is another thing you wouldn't hear of today.
Big thing, 15 cents was a lot of money.
Well, it would give you more money to spend at the movies.
Right.
Do you remember your first movie or some of the movies you may have seen?
I'm not sure that I can remember my first one, but I'd have to think about that for a while.
You've probably seen some westerns and.
Oh yes, the westerns were big those days.
Yep.
Kids, you know.
Gene Autry and all those guys.
Yeah, all those fellows.
Well, that's quite a thing to get out. How much was it to get into the movie? Maybe 5-10 cents, probably.
Oh, I think it was around 15 cents.
So you could pretty well set yourself up with 50 cents if you had
50 cents. You were all set.
Yeah, you could have quite a day.
Go to town, go to the movie, and buy a pop and a hot dog.
Yeah. Wow.
And walk home.
Yeah. Well, you couldn't catch the train back.
Oh no, the train came in at noontime. You could always go down on the train.
Oh, but you had to, that's a long old walk home.
And to get the hot dog and the bottle of pop, and you'd walk to Bonnie River on a gravel road.
Was there
pretty well, unless somebody
come along?
Well, there were a few cars, not like they are today.
No.
There were several cars in Bonnie River, and of course, sometimes they'd be full. They couldn't pick you up.
No, there was a truck or something you get on back or something like that.
Yeah, once in a while you get lucky and someone would pick you up, like a truck or something.
Yep. Well, the Rubens ran that store and everything there. And then across the street, I remember Cecil Leland running a garage there for years. I don't know if he was the first guy that started it or not.
I think that Leland, as far as I'm concerned, Leland, that I can remember, Cecil was the first one.
Okay.
That I remember. I don't think there was any. I think Cecil started that garage.
Okay.
That may not be correct, but as far as my time.
Yep. And then it became a convenience store after that, the Irving convenience store. Then they shut it down, and that was the end of it. But another store I remember being, it was Boyd's Home Hardware. Well, actually, it was just Boyd's Hardware at one time. Then it became Home Hardware. Yeah. And I remember them. It was Clifton and Pym that ran the store. And I remember them had a saying was, "If we don't have it, you don't need it."
Yeah.
And it was they had pretty well everything in the store. They do from horse harnesses to anything you could imagine.
Anything you wanted, they had in that store.
Yep.
Yeah, there was a great place to go. If you needed something, you could pretty well get it there.
Oh yeah, yep.
Yes.
And of course now it became Home Hardware, and I think Scott is I don't know if he's a nephew, but he's running the Home Hardware in St. George now.
Yes,
but
he's related to
and then of course we've got the Ronnie Craig was across the street, used to cut hair. I remember going. I wasn't a big fan of getting my hair cut. And I blatted and cried, and I had to pretty well hold me down and get my hair cut.
Yes.
I was going back a few years, but yeah, I mean, Ronnie cut my hair, and I used Albert Henry, and I would go back and forth, and I always and I liked them both. I wasn't that I had any preference over them. I just, however I felt.
I was in there one time getting my hair cut, and there was a man in the chair, and Ronnie says, this fella here, he was overseas for 5 years. He said, I cut his hair when he was leaving for overseas, and I cut it the first time he had it cut when he came back.
Wow.
Gone 5 years, this man. I forget the man's name. I didn't know him anyway.
Yeah. That's really something.
Oh, Ronnie was a great barber.
Yeah. And he carried it on, like he moved to his house, and he still had the barbershop right up until pretty well till he died.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. Jack Kermont was another name that I thought of. He had a clothing store on the corner.
Jack had a clothing store.
Which is a law office now, but...
Jack had a good clothing store, and he was a good man to deal with, too.
Yeah, I mean, he ran that store for a number of years.
If you wanted a pair of boots, you didn't have quite the money and not quite as much as...
Which is a theme, right? I mean, back in those days...
Jack would just say, well, take the boots and...
Yeah.
Give you whatever you had. He wouldn't give them to you, but he was short $1 or $2. He said, that's okay, That's
and then you go down over the hill, and the Rubens had another store there on the corner.
Yes, they did.
On the corner, which was run by Nate as well. Now that was a clothing store.
Well, I'll tell you, Louis Rubin was an awful nice man too. I remember we were going up north to Iqaluit, that's Frobisher Bay. We got a chance to go up there to work, a whole crowd of us.
Okay.
It was 4 or 5 from Bonnie River. Went up there. Of course, you needed some clothes, heavy clothes. And went down to Louis' store. I told Louis, I haven't got any money, Louis, but I need some clothes. I'm going up north to work. Of course, we're going to make pretty good money. No problem. Fixed us right out, Rusty and I. What do you want? Get what you want. Coat, boots, shoes, and everything.
Wow.
And we went to Iqaluit, Frobisher Bay. We worked there 7 months, and we made big money.
Okay.
Yeah, great money for those days.
Wow.
Well, I think the wages was around $5 or something a day then.
Oh yeah.
Up there, we was making about 8 every day.
Holy smokes!
Yeah, big difference. But anyway, Louis fixed us right up.
Wow. Well, we got to speed her up because I think we're almost out of time. I got I had the Holmes Bakery and Eldon Cross and Muriel Dodds and Clifford Simpson. I had and of course Huey Parks and stuff that we were going to get to. And of course, time is our enemy again, and maybe we're going to have to do another one.
Okay.
We can talk about that. But it's been a pleasure having you on the show, Sheldon, to reminisce. And if we get another chance, we'll go at her again.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Mark.
Well, this has been another episode of the Mark Taylor Show. And please join me again next time. Thank you.